you ready for a deep dive into one of the most intense animated series out there? Welcome to Radioactive Ramblings, where we are currently breaking down the world of Invincible. Each week, we're going to unpack the jaw-dropping twists, the unforgettable characters, and that trademark brutal action. From Mark Grayson's journey to the darker side of heroism, to our continued love of Debbie, we've got every moment covered.
Mark, I don't want to hurt you.
I'm not the one who's gonna get hurt.
You said you don't do threats.
Yeah, well, people change.
Whether you're a longtime fan or just getting started, tune into our exclusive takes, fan theories, and so much more. Catch new episodes of Radioactive Ramblings every week, your go-to podcast for all things Invincible and more.
Welcome to the first Lorehounds Lorecast of Season 3 of The Wheel of Time. I'm Elysia.
I'm John, and this is a weekly extra episode just for subscribers. We'll keep these focused on one core area of lore related to that week's episode.
And with the Black Ajah uprising in the tower this week in the Season 3 premiere, we thought the Ajah system was a good place to start for Episode 1. What and why are the different Ajahs, and how does the Black Ajah fit into the rest? And we also know we decided we're going to do a double lorecast for episodes 2 and 3, just like we're doing a double breakdown, and that's going to be geography.
That's right. And we've already broken the 3Ls once this episode, because we're going to be releasing this first one for the public as a teaser, a taste of what the lorecasts are going to be. So only subscribers, though, will get the one on geography. And subscribers either on traditional subscriptions or the season pass, which is $10, you can get all of our ad-free podcasts for Wheel of Time, plus these bonus episodes.
And the show notes and episode notes.
The show guides, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right. But today we are focusing on the Ajahs. So there are 7 official Ajahs in rainbow colors. We're going to talk through them. And then the unofficial Black Ajah that we will also talk about how that throws in a wrinkle. But let's step back to the origin of the Ajahs. So I had some notes from the wiki, and you have some notes from the Origins of the Wheel of Time book about the series. Do you want to start with those?
Sure. So this book it has a few sections. And first of all, it talks about the writing process. It compares him with Tolkien's process, and it talks about Robert Jordan's life. Then at the end, it has a really long and detailed glossary where it gives you not just the definition, but the origin, like the book says, of the term that Robert Jordan has created here. So Michael Livingston, the author, writes, "The idea of the Ajah is rooted in the religious orders of the medieval church that undergird much of the Aes Sedai. These are internal, self-organized groups built around a specific set of principles within the larger hierarchy under the direction of the Pope or the Amyrlin seat. Historically, these religious orders were identifiable by the colors of their robes. Franciscan monks were brown, Dominicans wore white, Benedictines wore black, and so forth. Unlike religious orders whose hierarchies are clear to outsiders, however, the authority of Aes Sedai within their Ajah were only internally known. Jordan compared this with his own experiences with the practice of Freemasonry, where the town banker or mayor may hold an insignificant office or none at all, while a mechanic or the banker's chauffeur might be Grand Master."
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. And so then the in-universe lore is so there's the Age of Legends, which we've caught glimpses of in the show. Basically, that's when they have those flying Joe cars and the tall skyscrapers, and when Luce Theron lived. And in the Age of Legends, the Aes Sedai were both male and female, and the Ajahs didn't exist like they do now. It just meant a temporary group of people banded together for a specific purpose. So after the breaking, when Luce Theron broke the world, we'll have to do a lorecast on that in the future.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then leading up to especially, the modern White Tower, there were more Ajahs than that used to exist and exist now. There were, I think, 12, and now there are obviously 7. And it's not really clear in the in-universe history why exactly they landed on these 7 or which Ajahs fell by the wayside. But yeah, basically, they stopped using Ajah with a lowercase a, which meant in general groups banding together. And then it just became Ajah with an uppercase A, which is just one of these 7 colors, your orientation within the tower. Do you think, did I explain that well? Is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, I think that's a great explanation. I would just add that, like, you can't underemphasize how traumatic the breaking of the world was for
Right.
everybody, especially the Aes Sedai, because half of their members started
Right.
going crazy,
Mhm.
and they had to just deal with that all of a sudden. And I would guess, this is my headcanon now, that and I didn't know about the reduction of from 12 to 7. I'm curious about your source for that, because I didn't even know.
Yeah, there's a lot of the sources for this, and when we're talking about the geography, there's some extra materials in the what is it? The world of. Oh, wait, sorry, it's in this.
Yes.
But it's a book that was written based on Robert Jordan's notes.
Oh, I have to get this because I would like to have more of these resources. Do you have this book?
I mean, a digital version. It's called The World of Robert Jordan's The Wheel of Time.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes. I've heard of this. I have not gotten it. You know what? I'll let you keep getting in-world bits from that, and I'll get the out-of-world stuff from Origins.
Teamwork.
Yep. My headcanon anyway is that they will have forgotten some of the skills by this 98 after the breaking.
Right.
And that's why some of these went to the wayside. Is like maybe there was an Ajah dedicated to making ter'angreal, for example.
Perhaps. Yeah.
That's just guesswork, though.
Mm-hmm. And so now what we're left with, there's 7, and we'll talk about them in rainbow colors, starting with the blue, which, we start basically from the perspective of the blue, because the blue is Moraine's Ajah. It's also the Ajah of Swan, formerly the Ajah of Swan, the Amyrlin seat, and Lyanna, her keeper of the chronicles. When we'll talk about this more in a minute, but when you're raised to Amyrlin seat, you give up your Ajah and you become of all and none. But also we met Maigan from the Blue Ajah. She was this secret head of the Blue Ajah that was captured by the Shanshan. Gitara was the one who gave the prophecy that sent Moraine and Swan off on their mission to find the dragon. Ispan is a black Ajah member of the Blue Ajah who we saw break away in this first episode. Shiriam, Mistress of Novices, who's not going to be in season 3 for some reason. She was also the Blue Ajah. Yeah, I don't know why. And we're going to meet another important Blue sister this season, Lelaine. So.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize she was in this season.
Yeah, there was a casting announcement. So.
Well, I guess we're swapping out some sisters here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know why Shiriam, Mistress of Novices. It would make sense she was around the season. I don't know if there was a scheduling conflict with the actress or what. But
you never know. It's so much more complicated than in a book, right? Like you can't just read into the story intent. You have to read into like who was available.
Right, exactly. You can't just say Shiriam's there. You have to be like, well, can Shiriam be there?
Yeah.
But yeah, so the purpose of the Blue is they fight for causes of justice and righteousness, and they are kind of like the spy network Ajah. Like every Ajah has their own spy network, their eyes and ears, they call it, but the Blue has the biggest network of these.
Yeah, I'd say the Blues are the ones who are going to show up to your protest. They are just they are just all in on a cause.
They're the ones running the protest, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the sister who leads the Blue Ajah is titled the First Selector. And so, all these Ajahs have secret Ajah heads that they know within the Ajah, but they don't announce it publicly for political reasons.
Wow. The Aes Sedai are so weird. Like, some of these things, it's like, why do you need to hide that?
I mean, I ask that question about people all the time in real life. I can't believe the things that people play coy about, but then I guess, something's used against you once and you become twice shy.
Yeah, I guess so.
And who are the best friends of the Blue?
The Green.
The Battle Ajah. So That's obviously Alana. Is our most notable green member. We also met in the first season Karene, R.I.P., and we met the Black sister Jean in this first episode. She's the one who liked her warders dying.
Yeah, that was spooky. That honestly,
that was
though,
spooky.
great story building, right? Great demonstration without describing it of like how dark these people are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it was funny because you see the warders of Alana, Maxim is like, oh, good, it's Jean, she's one of ours. And then she's like, nope, I'm actually Black Ajah.
Yep.
And yeah, and the Greens are the battle Ajah. Their head is called the Captain General, and it's common for them to bond multiple warders, ostensibly because, these are more soldiers to fight on their side, but also the Greens tend to be, they're always kind of like the most sexual, as we see portrayed in Alana. And I guess maybe it has something to do with, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow ye may die.
Yeah, I get that. I said this in the episode 1 recap. I think that we finally get to see like why the Green are the battle Ajah with Alana fighting the Black Ajah here. I mean, her front flip. I mean, come on, Matrix style moves. I was like, yeah, all right, we're here with the Green Ajah.
Yeah. Yep, and the other. Yeah, the next Ajah in the rainbow is yellow, and they are known as the healers. We've met Rima, who was collared and or killed last season in Falm. And we also met Yellow Sister Chesmal Emery this season. And I think there are actually 2 yellow members of the Black, which people were like, oh my God, the healing Ajah, no.
I mean, it's a good disguise, right? Like, nobody's going to be like, you healed me, you must be evil.
Right, exactly. And I mean, they need to embed in every single Ajah so that the Dark One knows what's going on everywhere. And yeah, the first Weaver is the head of the Yellow Ajah. Anything to add there? I mean, this is one, we're going to learn more about this one for sure as the story goes, but.
Yeah, I don't think I could say anything without giving spoilers, so I'm just going to hold my tongue here.
Yeah, they're healers. They use water and spirit a lot in their healing at this point. So when you see yellows channeling in these episodes, pay attention to the colors of the weaves, and you'll see they're using basically 2 weaves right now, water and spirit.
I think they use air too sometimes, but they definitely don't use fire and earth. That's like taboo in healing.
Right. Yeah. And then, speaking of earthy, we've got the brown Ajah, and so we've met a good number of brown Ajah sisters. They're one of my favorites because they're the nerds. They're the ones.
They're the Hufflepuffs.
I would call them the Ravenclaws because they're the ones who collect and curate knowledge. But
yeah, fair enough. It's just like, I think social status wise, they are the Hufflepuffs.
You think?
Of the
guess.
tower. Like,
they're not the cool
people
ones.
definitely chide them for being like too bookwormy and all that.
Right.
I mean, I'm saying this as someone who probably would end up being brown Ajah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just think it's funny that they're always like, oh, you browns always. Like, there is a thing in the book, a recurring thing where like somebody tries to talk to a brown and they're like lost in thought and they don't even respond.
Right. Like Luna Lovegood, who was she was Gryffindor, by the way. But yeah. I would be, if I were in the tower.
She wasn't Gryffindor, was she?
Wasn't she? Oh no, she was Ravenclaw.
I'm saving you here from the Potter people.
I mean, I have to admit that I have let Potter fall by the wayside in recent years.
As have I. I vaguely recalled this detail.
Yeah. She was always my favorite character, though, Luna Lovegood.
She was cool. She should have ended up with Harry.
Yeah, I don't know about that. No, I don't think.
I think it was a much more interesting relationship. Anyway, let's move on. But this is not a Harry Potter. I think we're in Harry Potter thought because like the Ajahs are so they're so like very similar to like the Harry Potter.
But there's
vibe.
7 instead of 4, so they can be more specific.
Right.
But yeah, so we got. If I were one of the Ajahs, I was going to say I would be either. I like to think I would be green, but maybe I would probably be blue, gray, or brown. Yeah.
I think this is also like one of the flaws in this is they try to pigeonhole everyone.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot are Wonder Girls. We're going to start calling these people the Wonder Girls.
And that's Nynaeve, Elaine, and Egwene's not with them right now, but yeah.
Yeah, but the three of them together are the Wonder Girls, and that's just like something the fandom has branded them with. If you're not in like the book fandom, and they, I think, are a lot more well-rounded. They have specialties for sure, but they're a lot more well-rounded.
Yeah, and I think that starts to show flaws in the system. But yeah, we got some nice time with the Brown Ajah, especially in season 2. So we've met Viren, who's obviously the most important member of the Brown Ajah from the books and in the show. Her sister in the show is Adeleis. Adeleis has a different sister named Vandine in the books, but that's fine. They're condensing characters. This makes sense. And then we also met 2 new characters who were added just for the show, Yasika and Naomi. And Naomi is the one who we saw. She's actually black, it turns out. So that was heartbreaking for me because last season they were like sharing cider or whatever together and having like nice nerdy talk. And I love the Brown Ajah.
Interesting too that Naomi is given this like specialty of compulsion. Or memory erasure. I think they're basically framing this as like a type of compulsion though.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I guess we're not going to say any episode 2 or 3 spoilers in this episode, but
no, we are
in this episode. Okay. So, right, because this is coming out after. Right. Okay. So we see Ravin also using a form of compulsion, Lord Gabriel, quote unquote, using a form of compulsion to alter the memories of people around him to make them all think he's been around longer with the royal family of Camelin.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, is that what's happening? Oh, that completely went over my head. Like I understood that compulsion was happening, but I didn't understand that he was like rewriting history here.
Well, the first time you see a new character meet him in episode 2, episode 3, they reveal who he is. But in episode 2, they haven't revealed yet who he is. And the first time a new character meets him, they pause and they're like, and this is, oh, of course, the Prince Consort. Yes, of course. Right. I've known you for years.
Very interesting. Okay. All right. Well, now I feel very dumb, but that's okay because you're here with me to guide my hand.
And so, yes, we are recording this before we record our episodes 2 and 3 breakdown.
Right. We have to be careful not to just like analyze those episodes because we haven't gotten to do that yet.
But anyway, the Brown Ajah, it's a very fair Ajah. It's governed by an internal council rather than just one head per se. And the leader of the council is called the First Chair. Going to what a lot of us probably think is the least fair Ajah, everybody's most hated Ajah, the Red. And their purpose is to prevent the misuse of the One Power. And they especially interpret it that as, they need to gentle males who are corrupted by the male half of the power, also known as Sidene.
Right. And here's the thing, like there is an argument for this.
Sure.
And that's the problem is like, this is almost like everyone like loves to hate them, but they're like, okay, but they're necessary. That's kind of their role in the tower. And this has been, for thousands of years now, men who channel go crazy and they hurt people. And like, that's why there is actually a reason to gentle them. Even if it does hurt them, it won't kill them and everybody around them. I mean, we know that men actually do die, and pretty much anybody gentled or still dies within a few years of that. But I see the point of what they're doing. And so the question is, what is this Ajah now that you have the Dragon Reborn and you can't gentle him without forfeiting the last battle?
Yeah. So it is, and it makes it easy for the other Ajahs to hate them, which leads to, we saw in that first episode, that prejudice that was shown where the Reds weren't allowed into the chamber. But actually, those 2 Reds, as far as we know so far, they do not seem to be Black Ajah. So they actually would have helped rather than hindered the fight against the Black Ajah. But they're being discriminated against because of prejudice. And obviously that's going to cause problems.
Yeah. It's, again, like, this is why it's more interesting than the Harry Potter divisions, because they have that whole, like, oh, only the Slytherins go bad. And here it's like anybody from any Ajah could go bad. And the people who are like the cops you don't like, they might be good. They might be like good intention. And that's what's so interesting to me about the Wheel of Time, which I think puts it above some other fantasy in some of these aspects is that the Wheel of Time makes you question, like, how does good come together when we have a different idea of how to get there? And
Right,
that feels
exactly.
much more real world to me than a lot of fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see some characters who do the wrong things for the right reasons, and then there's a lot of characters who, I don't know, it's hard to say, like gentling the men who go mad. Like, is that the right thing or is that the wrong thing? Depends on your perspective or what,
Right.
if you think that there's any other option.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So the Red, they are though known as man-haters. They never bond warders. The sister who leads the Red Ajah is titled the highest, of course, but and they consider their highest to be equivalent to the Amyrlin seat within the Red Ajah. They respect her basically the same amount. And at the moment, that is Tsutama. We've seen that they had some private talks in the Red Chamber, and Tsutama is the current head of the Red Ajah, not Elysia, who new character just introduced, advisor to the Queen of Andor, played by Shover Agdashlu. She would like to be the highest, but she's currently not.
Elysia is a very interesting character, and I honestly I thought she'd be younger just because of her demeanor in the books.
Yeah, you
but
think?
I actually kind of like what they're doing here by changing that.
Yeah. I think because she's, she looks like, when you first look at her next to Tsutama, you're like, oh, well, I'm going to defer to Elysia, however. I guess they said a lot of Elysia in the episode. But actually, yeah, that's not how, that creates a tension in the inner hierarchy of the Red Ajah, let alone the tower and beyond.
Yeah. And I mean, I think it's interesting because if an Aes Sedai is going to look as old as Elysia looks here, she must be like 300 or 400 years old.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like we are at that point, and you go, well, I don't think that's why I think that you can't read that in
at least 200
in the books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I do think it makes sense here. It does seem she seems to have some kind of like health issue going on.
You think? Like what?
Yeah.
Because she was shaking, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It made me think of Silo with that syndrome.
Oh yeah. And
yeah, that's not a thing in the books. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're adding that, and I think this could be really. We're getting into the episode now. I got to stop.
Okay. So we've obviously Liandrin is of the Red Ajah and also of the Black, clearly, and the other prominent Red that we've met this season is Galena. So we saw Tsutama is the leader of the Ajah, and Galena is the one who she was happy to accept the strawberries from Elysia, and she just seems a bit more. Deferential to Elysia.
Yeah.
Whereas Tsutama is like, don't step on my toes, bitch. But yeah, so Red Ajah. And then there's two more Ajahs that have gotten the least screen time in the show, always get the least page time in the books, and that's the Gray and the White. I said that the Gray is one of the ones that I could see myself as part of. Their purpose is diplomacy, politics, and negotiation. So when there's a big treaty negotiation between nations, you often want to call in a Gray Ajah member to help with that. So far, we've only really met one, which is Joya. She's the bald girl who last season pegged her, knew she was Black Ajah. She's revealed here as Black Ajah, and she's now in the custody of the tower. And the sister who leads the Grey Ajah is titled the head clerk. Do you have anything else to add about the Grey Ajah at this point?
Boring.
I think the Grey Ajah is important. The one that I like.
Ooh, all right, I'm sorry.
The one I like the least, other than the Reds, is the White.
Fair enough.
Their purpose is logic and philosophy. So far, we finally met the one really prominent book character from the White Ajah, Alviarin. That was the third sister who was at Egwene's testing for becoming accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And the sister who leads the White Ajah is titled the First Reasoner. Any thoughts on White?
I mean, that's super pretentious. I'm the first reasoner.
Yes, I'm the most logical. But yeah, so how does it work when the accepted become sisters?
they've got I mean, something that Swan says sometime in the series, and I think it's later, so I don't want to spoil when. But she says, like, by the time you finish your trials, you, as an accepted, you will have already been guided to the right Ajah, whether you know it or not.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of an informal process of like dating the Ajahs. Like, you'll take lessons with each Ajah, with somebody from each Ajah, and you kind of like vibe with them, see who you're more drawn to. And by the time you're an Aes Sedai, you kind of know when you want to, which one you want to be. And then you have to go to the Ajah that you want to be in and ask to join, and nobody ever says no.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. You can't be refused entry to the Ajah of your choice. But yeah, indeed.
Well, you can, but just nobody ever does.
Can you? Is it allowed?
Yes, that was made very clear in the passage I read like last night.
Okay. Okay. Well, we've seen so far we've seen Nynaeve and Egwene take the test to go from novice to accepted, and so they go from wearing the novice white dresses to a new type of white dress that looks less like a servant and more like they have these rainbow banded armbands and stuff on their accepted white dresses, and then they get the serpent ring in the books. The serpent ring's just a serpent ring. In the TV show, the serpent ring is has a setting for a stone, but it's empty when you're accepted, and you only get a stone the color of your Ajah once you're accepted. In the books, instead, you get these shawls, and the shawls have the fringe the color of your Ajah. So, do you miss the shawls?
I could go for a shawl. I like a good shawl. There's also the thing of like, it makes it very easy for an accepted to just like change hands of the ring and pretend to be Aes Sedai in the books. And we see in, I think it's episode 3, that Egwene is being taken for Aes Sedai by the wise ones and doesn't correct them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't think we ever saw her represent herself as that, but she certainly didn't correct them.
No, which is fitting.
Yeah.
And some stop at accepted. If you attain the rank of accepted, then you can keep the ring and you can leave and you can still like come back to Tarvalon when you want. If you don't make it to accepted, then you're kicked out basically, and you're gone. You're banished from Tarvalon.
Can't sit with us.
Yeah,
it's
you
over.
Can't eat lunch with us. Can't play our reindeer games.
But also, like, I think I said this in our episode 1 podcast. Like, they definitely don't have as much freedom as they're portraying in the show here,
right?
In the books, like Egwene's just like, I'm going to disobey the Amyrlin seat.
Yeah,
I'm going to go exactly where I want, and you're like, oh, it's fine. I think it works for what they're doing in the show.
Right.
Again, they are reordering some plot lines, and you just got to change some things.
And the fact that Egwene is besties with, not even besties, dating the Dragon Reborn, Swan is also a bit like, well, at least we do want, she knows that Egwene is going to play a big role in helping to influence the dragon in the future. So she has to stay on her good side.
Right.
But yeah, so we saw, for instance, in the first season, we saw Amelisa, the princess, I guess, of Faldara. She had an empty ring because she became accepted, but not a sister. This season, we saw Queen Morgase. What do you say, Morgase?
Morgase. Yeah. And I think they said that in the show too.
No, that's fair. I just pronounce it with a European A.
Look, I'm just lucky that I've listened to some audiobooks because it does help a lot. Because I agree with you that there are definitely different interpretations you could make of the same name.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, she's another one who it's custom, they say in the episodes, for the daughter heirs of Andor to study at the tower. But usually they just leave with an accepted ring. So that's why Elaine is hoping to become the first full sister queen of Andor. Yeah.
And I don't think they made this clear in the show, and I don't think they're going to, so I'm just going to say it. Like, Morgase was not really powerful enough to become accepted even. They kind of just gave it to her as an honorary ring.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's like she demands to Swan, like, just give my daughter the ring now. Like, well, everyone else has to take the test.
Right. But in the books, I don't think Morgase took the test. I don't know if they're implying that she did in the show. It could be different. But yeah, it's interesting. Like Elaine is that much more powerful.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, which is, there's this new generation with Nynaeve, with Egwene, with Elaine, Suddenly there's a lot more power than there used to be, and the dragon was born into that same generation. Is it a
Right.
coincidence? I think not.
It's did you ever watch Arrested Development?
Yeah.
Did you watch season 4 with the
I
with,
watched the
like,
whole thing,
reboot?
but I might not remember it as well as you.
Do you remember Alia Shawkat singing with like Indian style music? She goes, "Coincidence."
Okay, no.
Well, I feel like I need to get a clip of that and put that into our podcast.
Yeah. It's called Taviran in this world. That's another.
Yeah, right.
That's
Right.
another Lorecast.
I have always appreciated that we have like in-universe plot armor, and so it's not just the author; it's the world.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, he wrote it into the plot. Yeah, no, that makes sense. And yeah, so we've seen the hall where obviously not all the sisters meet in the hall. They have 3 sitters, so they're kind of like the senators of their Ajahs, the 3 sitters. Interesting to note that at least each Ajah had at least one black sister. We saw in episode 1. So yeah, they were all the way infiltrated. And often the heads of the Ajahs. We saw Tsutama, it does seem to be a sitter and the head of her Ajah, but in the books they make it clear that often the heads of the Ajahs are not one of the sitters, just to keep the heads of the Ajah more hidden, I suppose.
Right. Which makes sense.
Yeah. And so what's the deal with the Amyrlin and Keeper of the Chronicles?
Well, we kind of already talked about this, but when they are raised to Amyrlin, they give up their Ajah. They become of all Ajahs a nun, as you said, and it's so like silly because they're supposed to do this, but everyone knows that they're going to favor the Ajah that they came from.
Duh. Yeah.
Yeah, which you get it, and generally the Keeper of the Chronicles comes from the same Ajah as the Amyrlin seat, although it's not a rule.
Right. Because the Amyrlin gets to pick their own keeper,
right?
And then it has to be like voted on and ratified, basically. But obviously they're going to choose one of their buddies.
Yeah. That's your VP.
Yeah, and then the Amyrlin, to show they're of all and none. In the books, she wears a rainbow stole with all the stripes of the 7 different Ajahs. In the show, we saw that worked into her clothing, into like her collar and stuff.
Yeah.
What I find interesting is just all of the politics within the tower, how some Ajahs get along better and some are natural enemies. So, for instance, blue and green tend to be best friends. They both hate red and vice versa. There's some really interesting politics going on between the blues, browns, grays, and yellows, because it's like the browns have beef with the grays and yellows for like historical reasons, and the blues have some uneasiness with them too, but the browns will support the grays over the blues, but they'll support the blues over the yellows. Like, it gets really complex. I don't know how much they'll go into that in the show, but I love all the politicking in the
I think they've actually quoted this in the show. I think Moraine might have said it, but
okay.
They have the game of houses, Deus de Mar. We talked about that last season. And Moraine, I think at one point says, the Kyrianan might play the game of houses, but the Aes Sedai invented it. And so it's very complicated, the tower politics. And where I'm at in my reread right now, they are going into like other hierarchies within the Aes Sedai, and that's interesting too, like the secret hierarchies.
Right. Yeah.
Which we probably could talk about here, but I don't want to spoil it in case they do it later.
I don't think they're doing the thing in the show with, you mean based on perceived power? Like in capital P power?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing in the show. I think we can say that. Okay.
Well, then I'm going to say it. There's this thing, because it's not like that big of a twist, right? It's just like sisters can tell, channelers of the same sex can tell with experience like how powerful another channeler is, roughly. It's not always accurate. And so sure, the head of an Ajah is going to be above you, and the sitters are going to be above you, and the Amyrlin is going to be above you. But if you are not any of those things, generally your opinion matters as much as how powerful you are.
Right, exactly. And then so that adds another twist when we have all these youngins coming in who suddenly have more power than all these sisters who have been there for a century or more. It creates interesting dynamics.
Right. Like experience doesn't even play into like the hierarchy. It's really just power.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say it's a complex web of all those things but power is definitely a big role because it's hard. It's undeniable if you're like, oh, well, that person can literally crush me.
To quote Cersei Lannister, power is power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And one thing they did for the show that I think was a good call. So in the books, it's common for members of an Ajah to dress in the color of their Ajah. It's common, but it's not like mandatory or universal or whatever. In this show, they basically always have the members dressed in the color of their Ajah. And I think that's just important for visual storytelling and just making it easy when there's less time to get into all that.
Yeah, I totally agree. That was a very good idea for like the people trying to keep track of who's in what Ajah.
Yeah, exactly. And then so that brings in the wrinkle of the Black Ajah, which is it's like a second secret Ajah. So basically, you're a member of the Black Ajah if you're sworn to the Dark One, but you have to also be a member of another Ajah publicly because people don't know you're a member of the Black Ajah. So, and
you have a day job and a side gig. I get it.
Yeah. Well, it's also like I think about like I have membership in the in the Potawatomi Nation, but I cannot have that. Can't be my only nationality. You know, I have to have at least another internationally recognized passport as well.
Right, I get you.
But yeah, so they're sworn to the Dark One, and part of that swearing is that they go through the painful process of breaking all three of their oaths that they swear when they become full sisters. So that means they can lie, they can create weapons, and they can attack innocent people, as we see the Black Ajah do in this first episode. And they're basically embedded in the tower as sleeper agents, and they have their own internal hierarchy where, and for the most part, I think in the books, it's like they have little cells of 3 sisters, I think, who know who each other are. And then each sister knows one other person in a different cell.
Yep. They're called hearts.
Hearts. You're right. Sorry. Hearts. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's a very secretive, like it's deliberately decentralized so that you can not capture one and then get everybody. Right.
Which is why it's interesting. So Leandrin, she says, I will tell what I know, and they all attack her. Well, we find out that actually in the book, a lot of the sisters were directly connected to her heart.
Yeah.
The ones who jumped up and were like, okay, I guess we got her back.
Yep. We're doing it.
Yeah. All right, here we go. She says, I tried. She says, I tried. Any other thoughts about the Ajahs, Black, or otherwise?
I think we'll develop it further over the season. It's always tricky when we've read all the books and we don't want to spoil things. But honestly, I don't think you learn that much more about the Ajahs beyond this. Like this is a pretty good, solid overview that of everything that you need to know.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, basically, we're giving you we're explaining the chess pieces, but then the show is going to show how the game plays out.
Yes, and I'm finishing up the show guide as we're recording, but I'm going to be putting the affiliation of each sister on their character page in the show guide. That's for subscribers only.
Okay, cool. Okay. Yeah, and as far as we're just keeping. This is a short one. The next one is probably going to be a bit longer. We're talking about geography and this entire world. But all the stuff we said in the public podcast still applies. We won't waste too much time with telling you everything that's going on in the network. It's the same stuff, but do explore the link tree with links to the affiliate podcasts and, of course, the Severance feed and links to the season pass if you want to hear more of these Lorecasts. And I think we're going to have maybe a couple other extra episodes in the works.
Yeah,
I know.
We're cooking. We're cooking in here.
We're cooking. And Discord, come chat with us on Discord. We have a whole Wheel of Time forum set up with different chats with spoilers for different episodes and a book spoiler chat and everything. So
very cool.
And send your feedback into WOT at thelorehounds.com, and we will do a couple of mailbag episodes this season as well.
We should have made a funny email for this one. We should have been like, Rand is a tool at thelorehounds.com.
Ooh. That'll generate emails on its own.
It sure will.
I do not think Rand is a tool.
No,
But
well,
he's
he can be
a
tool
whiner.
for sure.
He whines sometimes.
He can be a real tool
I
at times.
called him a dog. That's DAWG, but not in the cool homey way.
I was watching the episode, and I was talking to my wife, and she goes, "Why is this guy just like a chick magnet? Like, what's going on here?"
Rand Penny Dropper Althor. He's
All right.
De'Viren.
Well, that's enough for me today.
All right. Do you want to do the reading of the names?
Sure. We have our Discord server boosters: Aaron K. Tiller the Thriller, Dork of the Ninjas, Duve71, Athena A, Tina Lestu, Nancy M, Ghost of Partition, and Radioactive Richard. Thank you for supporting the server and getting us also these bonus features. And Lore Masters, Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, Brian P, SC, Peter OH, Bettina W, Adam S, Nancy M, Duve71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Matthew M, Sarah M, DJ Miwa, Andre B, Kwang Yu, Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan T, Alex V, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Lestu, Jeffrey B, Elisa U, Neil F, Ben B, Scott F, Stephen N, Julia F, Kali S, Ilmariel, and Adrian. Thanks everyone for all the support, and we'll see you on the geography episode.
All right. See you in Randland.
The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by the Lorehounds. You can send questions, feedback, and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all our episodes at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. The wheel of time turns, and ages come and pass, leaving memories that become legend. In one podcast, called The Lorehounds by Some, a weekly recap with tons of analysis, two Wheel of Time superfans will lead you through a world of powerful magic, tricky prophecies, and cutthroat politics. Join me, John, and my co-host Elysia for weekly coverage of Season 3 by searching your podcast app for The Lorehounds. Dovieandi Sitova Again. It's time to roll the dice.